Chapter 1, The Silent Sentinel. Welcome to Synapse Daily. Imagine a frozen Siberian wasteland. The wind howls across empty plains. Deep underground, machines hum softly. A concrete fortress hides a dark secret. This is the year 1967. The Cold War is freezing the world. Massive steel doors seal the world out. Heavy locks keep the secrets inside. Ancient computers wait for a single signal. That specific signal means the absolute end. No humans are needed in this place. The system watches the silent, dark skies. It never sleeps in the deep frost. It never blinks in the dim light. It only waits for the smell of fire. The air inside is cold and dry. Rust grows on the iron support beams. Dust settles on the magnetic tape reels. The silence is heavy like lead weights. Every second feels like a long year. This is the heart of Soviet defense. It is a lonely, mechanical ghost world. It breathes through copper and cold steel. The bunkers are hidden from every satellite. They are invisible to the Western eyes. Only the High Kremlin knows the truth. They built a god of pure metal. It judges the world from the shadows. It is ready to strike the stars. Welcome to the tomb of 1967. Chapter 2, The Red Horizon. The Soviet Union feared one major thing. They feared a sudden strike from above. They expected fire from the western clouds. So, they built a massive digital shield. Elite engineers labored in total, dark secrecy. They worked in labs under the earth. They called it an automated dream. To others, it was a metallic nightmare. It was a vast grid of steel. Giant radars scanned the black, distant horizon. Every tiny blip was a potential war. Tension filled every single copper wire. Static electricity danced in the control rooms. The Kremlin demanded absolute, total control. But they gave power to the machines. Silicon replaced the warm human heart. Cold logic governed the ultimate weapon. Orders came from a mathematical brain. No mercy existed in the binary code. The red horizon was always watched. The Soviet sky was a digital map. Every bird was tracked like a bomb. Every cloud was checked for lethal radiation. The machines didn't know peace or war. They only knew the logic of input. The input was death from the west. The output was fire from the east. The cycle was perfect and very terrifying. Chapter 3, Dead Hands Ancestor. You know the famous dead hand system. That was the legend of the later years. But 1967 was the true, raw beginning. This was the first, primitive prototype. It used early, experimental Soviet computing power. Massive gray cabinets filled entire, cold rooms. Huge magnetic tapes spun in the dark. They processed data at incredible, lightning speeds. Could a machine truly start a war? This question haunted the young designers. They feared the creation they had built. They designed a complex, fail-safe logic. If Moscow fell, the bunker rose. It was a tomb with sharp teeth. The sensors looked for a living capital. If the pulse stopped, the gates opened. The machine would assume everyone was dead. It would then launch the final rockets. This was the logic of the grave. It was a system built for ghosts. It didn't need a living general's hand. It only needed the silence of Moscow. The 1967 system was a dark miracle. It was the birth of automated spite. It ensured that no one truly won. Even the dead could still fight back. The wires felt like cold, dead veins. The logic was a final, icy breath. Chapter 4, The 1967 Crisis Point. The year 1967 was a year of fire. Global tensions reached a dangerous, high peak. The secret bunker went on high alert. Tired technicians lived in cramped, dark tunnels. They smelled ozone and stale, bitter coffee. Their eyes were red from the monitors. Outside, the common world was totally oblivious. People walked in the sun, smiling. Inside, the sensors detected a fast ghost. A thermal signature appeared on the screen. Was it a hybrid or bomb? The computer analyzed the heat very quickly. Seconds felt like long, agonizing hours here. The automated brain held the golden trigger. One tiny error meant global, black shadows. The men watched the computer's digital eye. They waited for the machine to decide. Sweat dripped onto the metal control floor. The bunker hummed with a nervous energy. The radar pulse echoed in the silence. The logic gates flipped in the dark. It was a test of the soul. The machine remained calm and perfectly still. The ghost on the screen finally faded. The world was safe for one day. But the bunker never stopped its watch. The crisis lived in the wires forever. Chapter 5: Underground Architecture. The bunkers were true engineering marvels. Layers of heavy lead protected the circuits. Massive steel springs dampened every nuclear shock. Huge air filters scrubbed the toxic, gray dust. It was a secret city for ghosts. Hallways stretched for miles in the dark. Cold, fluorescent lights flickered in a rhythm. The concrete walls were 5 meters thick. It felt like a giant metal coffin. Everything was painted a dull, lifeless gray. This color suppressed the human spirit daily. Only the final mission mattered in this hole. The air smelled of oil and old ozone. Massive fans hummed behind thick iron grates. They pushed recycled air through narrow vents. The floors were polished but very cold. There were no windows to the world. Day and night were the same here. Time was measured by the machine's pulse. Scientists lived in small, cramped cabins. They shared space with banks of computers. Every bolt was tightened for the end. The architecture was built for a dead world. It was a monument to human fear. It was a tomb for the living. Chapter 6: The Logic of Doomsday. How does a cold machine truly decide? It follows a very strict if-then path. If seismic sensors detect a massive impact, if radiation levels spike in the atmosphere, then the digital command is very clear. Launch the final, retaliatory strike now. There is no room for human mercy. There is no second guessing the code. It is cold, hard, and brutal mathematics. Why trust a machine with all life? Because humans might hesitate in the end. A human might feel pity for enemies. The machine is perfectly, terrifyingly loyal. It executes the final command without fear. The logic gates open like iron jaws. Electrons flow toward the launch silos. The program does not have a soul. It only has a goal to finish. This was the dead hand philosophy. If we die, everyone must die too. The code was written in 1967. It was a suicide note in binary. It was the ultimate, dark insurance policy. The machine never asks why or how. It only asks when the fire starts. Chapter 7: Hidden Sensors. Thousands of sensors covered the vast USSR. They were buried deep in the soil. Some floated in the silent, Black Sea. Every tiny vibration was recorded right here. The bunker acted as the giant brain. It collected every tiny, distant pulse. A distant explosion triggered a system check. The computer cross-referenced the incoming data. It looked for specific patterns of war. Is it a natural tremor or TNT? The sensors whispered secrets to the bunker. The bunker listened to the shaking earth. It felt the weight of every tank. It heard the roar of every jet. This was a web of invisible nerves. No one could hide from this ear. The sensors were the bunker's long arms. They reached across 11 different time zones. They waited for the sound of thunder. If the earth screamed, the machine woke. It was a planet-sized trap for enemies. The wires were the veins of Russia. The sensors were its cold, watchful eyes. Chapter 8: the human element. Men still lived inside these metal tombs. They were called the biological overrides here. Their job was very simple yet heavy. They monitored the machine's glowing health. They did not make the big decisions. They were just parts of the clockwork. Isolation took a very heavy toll daily. Some men went mad in the silence. They heard strange voices in the vents. They feared the machine they served daily. Who was truly in charge in here? Was it the man or motherboard? The technicians watched the green, glowing screens. They lived on dried meat and tea. They rarely saw the bright morning sun. Their skin became pale like the walls. They stopped talking to each other eventually. Only the hum of the fans remained. They were prisoners of their own defense. They guarded a trigger they couldn't pull. The machine was the master of men. The men were just biological spare parts. It was a lonely, dark existence underground. Chapter 9: The Power of 1967. The technology was primitive but very lethal. Vacuum tubes glowed like angry red eyes. Cooling fans roared in the long halls. This system used more power than cities. The bunker had its own hidden reactor. It was a self-sustaining, hungry beast. If the sun went out, it stayed. It was built to survive the apocalypse. Even when the world ended, it breathed. This was the peak of 1967 science. It was a masterpiece of terrifying engineering. Computers were the size of large trucks. They processed commands with clicking, mechanical relays. The heat from the tubes was intense. Water pipes cooled the logic centers constantly. It was a heart made of copper. It was a brain made of glass. This power was meant for one thing. It was meant to avenge a ghost. The Soviet dream was written in electricity. It was the ultimate power of 1967. A silent monster waiting for its day. Chapter 10: Failsafe or Suicide? What if the system suffered a glitch? A single short circuit could trigger hell. Scientists debated the high risks in the shadows. One stray spark could end human history. They added many layers of digital verification. But complexity breeds its own unique danger. Can we truly control the fully automated? The 1967 system was a massive gamble. It promised peace through a total threat. It was a loaded gun to everyone's head. The safety switch was always turned off. Logic errors were the ultimate enemy here. A cooling fan failure could melt the brain. A dusty relay could signal a fake launch. The designers lived in constant, silent fear. They built mirrors to watch the mirrors. They created tests for the secret tests. But machines do not understand human context. A machine does not know a mistake. It only knows the flow of current. The line between safety and suicide was thin. It was a wire stretched across an abyss. The bunker was a trap for the world. It was a cage for the future. We built a monster to save us. But who saves us from the monster? Chapter 11: Declassified Shadows. Much remains buried in the secret archives today. We only see the rusted, metal remains now. Scraps of old paper reveal the dark truth. The 1967 system was very real. It was not just a scary myth. Global intelligence agencies scrambled for any clues. They feared the black box Soviet defense. What did the American spies truly know? They suspected a ghost in the machine. It was a silent war of hidden signals. The truth is still mostly classified today. We find concrete shells in the deep woods. We find empty silos in the dry deserts. The documents are covered in red ink. Names of the engineers are still erased. They were the ghosts of the Cold War. Their work was meant to be invisible. But the echoes of 1967 still remain. We feel the chill of the steel. We hear the hum of the past. The shadows are long and very cold. The archives keep their secrets locked tight. History is a puzzle with missing pieces. We are only now finding the edges. Chapter 12: The Legacy of Automation. The 1967 bunker changed the world forever. It led to modern, high-tech defense AI. We live in its very long shadow. Advanced computers still watch the skies today. The code is much faster and smarter. But the core logic remains exactly same. If we are hit, we hit back. The ghost of 1967 lives on here. It is in every modern missile chip. It is in every silent, deep silo. We built a complex machine to die. Now, we teach it to think faster. The automation of war is a dark path. We removed the human hand from the trigger. We replaced the heart with high-speed silicon. The legacy is a world on standby. We wait for a signal that never comes. We trust the sensors and the wires. But the 1967 ghost is still watching. It is the grandfather of our fears. It is the architect of the end. We cannot unplug the digital god now. It is woven into our very survival. The legacy is a silent, waiting fire. Chapter 13: Closing the Vault. The bunkers are mostly empty now. Rust eats the heavy steel doors. Groundwater floods the lower levels. The vacuum tubes are all cold. But the lesson is never forgotten. We gave power to the inanimate. We let machines hold the fire. Thank you for joining Synapse Daily. Sleep well knowing the watch continues. The vault is now closed. Goodbye.